You think the Virgin Islands are all white beaches, fancy cocktails, and cruise ship selfies? Cute, because beyond the sunscreen and the rum punches, there's another world watching you, and sometimes laughing at you, literally. Meet the laughing gull, the local bird that mocks tourists for a living. But that's just the beginning. Up in the skies, giant frigate birds steal food midair like sky pirates. Down by the reefs, pink Caribbean flamingos strut like they own the place. And deep in the mangroves, tiny hunters, ghost white terns, and island hawks that can snatch a crab before you blink. These 20 birds are not your tropical postcard. They're weird, bold, and way too confident for something that weighs less than a sandwich. Some are comedians, some are thieves. A few are survivors from storms that wiped everything else away. So here's the real question. If paradise has a food chain, where do you rank? Still think you're on top? Let's find out. Because what's hiding beyond the beaches of the Virgin Islands is wilder and a lot louder than anyone told you. Have you ever been laughed at by a bird? Not metaphorically, literally. Because in the Virgin Islands, that's how the locals say, "Welcome tourist. Meet the laughing gull, the feathered stand-up comedian of the Caribbean." While you're posing for selfies or chasing your beach hat down the sand, this guy's in the background, cackling. Not a polite chuckle either. It's a full-on, open beak, I'm laughing at you kind of sound. It's the island's way of reminding you who's really in charge of the beach. And trust me, this bird knows exactly what it's doing. It doesn't waste time fishing or hunting. No, it waits for tourists. You drop a French fry? That's lunch. Leave your sandwich open? That's dinner. Some gulls migrate for miles to find food. This one just follows the smell of sunscreen and regret. Be honest. If a bird swooped down and stole your fries, would you chase it or applaud the confidence? Here's the twist most people miss. The laughing gull is no fool. They work together. One distracts the pelicans, another swipes the fish. It's not chaos, it's coordination. Like Ocean's 11, but everyone's wearing feathers and screaming. And that weird laugh, it's not just random noise, it's a message. This spot's mine. In breeding colonies, thousands of them shout over each other. A wall of laughter that sounds like a comedy club on fire. They nest right on sandy islands, and somehow, despite hurricanes and tourists and every hungry predator in the tropics, they keep coming back, year after year. The laughing gull might be the toughest beach bird alive. When storms clear and the beaches are empty, they're already there, circling above the surf, waiting for the first boat, the first picnic, the first mistake. So what do you think? Annoying beach pest or pure island attitude? Personally, I say he's earned the right to laugh. Because in a world where everything competes to survive, this bird figured out how to win by letting us do the work. And if you thought this was bold, wait till you meet the next one. A sky pirate with a 7-foot wingspan who steals food midair and looks good doing it. Ever met someone who looks majestic but absolutely refuses to work for their food? Welcome to the magnificent frigate bird, the sky's most beautiful freeloader. You'll spot them drifting over the Virgin Islands like lazy black kites, barely flapping, just gliding on endless Caribbean thermals. 7-foot wingspan, razor silhouette, forked tail slicing through the clouds. They look like fighter jets from a bird fashion show. But here's the catch. For all that power and grace, they can't swim. They can't even land on the water. If they do, they drown. So how do they survive? Simple. They let someone else do the hard work. Frigate birds steal, all the time. They harass pelicans and gulls mid-flight, chasing them until their victims panic and drop the fish they just caught. Then, swoop! The frigate bird grabs it midair and glides away like it just earned a paycheck. No guilt, no shame, no refund policy. And honestly, you've got to respect the confidence. Imagine bullying someone 3 times your size, then flying off like it's just island business. Still, the real show starts during mating season. Males inflate their massive scarlet throat pouch, a balloon so big it looks like a heart about to explode, and they drum it while calling out to passing females. From the right angle, the entire colony looks like a field of beating red hearts. Romantic? Maybe. Subtle? Not even close. Scientists say that pouch can take up to 20 minutes to fully inflate. Now that's commitment, or desperation. You decide. They nest on cliffs and mangrove branches, close to the sea but never touching it. A reminder that even the kings of the sky have limits. So what do you think? Genius survivor or professional thief with good marketing? Either way, it's hard to look away. Because when that red pouch lights up against the blue horizon, you suddenly realize, on these islands, even the thieves know how to put on a show. Next, we're heading down from the sky to meet a bird with a bill so oversized, it looks like it was designed by a committee of toddlers. And unlike the frigate bird, this one actually earns its meals. Have you ever seen someone so dramatic that even eating becomes a performance? Meet the brown pelican, the Virgin Islands' undisputed dive bomb champion. While other birds glide gracefully over the waves, the pelican prefers chaos. He spots a fish, folds his giant wings, and drops, head first, like a feathered torpedo. There's a splash the size of a jet ski, a pause, and then victory. Fish gone, ego restored. If there were Olympic points for style, he'd score a 10 just for the entrance. You'd think such confidence comes with brains, but half the time, pelicans miss. Sometimes they hit the water too hard and stun themselves, and yet 5 seconds later, they're back in the air, ready to do it again. Like adrenaline junkies in feathers. They travel in squadrons, cruising low over the waves in perfect formation. It's oddly military, if the military wore beach bum expressions and smelled like sardines. And when one spots a school of fish, the rest follow, turning the sea into a synchronized dive show. Tourists cheer, fish panic. Everybody loses but the pelican. Fun fact, that enormous throat pouch, it can hold up to 3 gallons of water and fish, more than its own belly. But it doesn't store food, it's a net. He scoops, drains, swallows, and then looks at you like, yeah, I meant to do that. Despite their goofball reputation, brown pelicans are survivors. They were nearly wiped out by pesticides in the 1970s, but made a comeback so strong they became a Caribbean conservation icon. Turns out, being stubborn has its perks. So what's your verdict? Graceful hunter or slapstick comedian with wings? Because whether he's face-planting into the surf or soaring like a low-flying blimp, the brown pelican doesn't care. He's living proof that confidence beats coordination. And somehow it still works. And if you think that beak was big, wait till you see the next bird. A pure white ghost that floats above the waves like a myth with feathers. Ever seen a bird so perfect it looks fake? Like something you'd find in a stock photo labeled Peaceful Paradise? That's the white tern. Pure white, pure elegance, and way too photogenic for its own good. It floats over the Virgin Islands like a piece of sunlight with wings. No flapping, no panic, no effort. Just grace on autopilot. The locals call it the fairy tern, and honestly, that's about right. Because when this bird passes by, even the gulls stop laughing for a second. But don't be fooled by the angelic look. The white tern is weird, really weird. It doesn't build nests at all. It just lays its egg straight on a bare tree branch. No twigs, no moss, no backup plan. Just one perfect egg balanced like a dare. A gust of wind and it's game over. Yet somehow they almost never lose it. How? Because both parents take turns guarding it with surgeon-level precision. Talk about trust issues and teamwork. And here's the kicker. When the chick hatches, it clings to that same branch for weeks, tiny claws gripping the bark as if its whole future depends on upper body strength. No nest, no safety net, just vibes and evolution. You have to admire the confidence. Every other bird out here is building, weaving, stacking sticks like overachievers, and the tern's like, nah, I got this. And somehow it works. If you ever see one gliding above turquoise water, it almost doesn't look real. Just a glowing shape against the sky, like a postcard come to life. So what do you think? Heavenly minimalist or lazy genius who found a loophole in bird architecture? Either way, this bird proves one thing. Sometimes perfection isn't about doing more. It's about doing nothing and still looking fabulous. And speaking of fabulous, the next bird trades white feathers for flaming pink, and it's making a comeback you won't believe. What's the first thing that pops into your head when you hear the word flamingo? A fancy lawn ornament? A pool float? Yeah, thanks, Florida. But the Caribbean flamingo was showing off long before humans turned it into backyard decor. Here in the Virgin Islands, this bird isn't decoration. It's drama. 6 feet tall, bright pink, long legs like a runway model who refuses to smile. When they move through the shallow lagoons, they don't walk. They glide, heads bent, bills upside down, filtering shrimp through the water like it's a gourmet buffet. The secret behind that wild pink color? It's the shrimp. No shrimp, no glow up. You are literally what you eat. And the attitude? Top tier. Flamingos spend half their lives gossiping in giant flocks, their voices blending into a non-stop honking chaos that sounds like a bird convention gone wrong. They argue, dance, and sometimes all perform the same synchronized steps. Turn left, shake, honk twice, repeat. Nobody really knows why. Maybe they just like to keep things fabulous. For decades, the Caribbean flamingo nearly vanished from these islands. Hunting, habitat loss, and pollution pushed them out. But recently, conservation programs brought them back. Slowly, gracefully, like celebrities returning from rehab with better feathers and new PR. Now you might catch a small flock painting the salt flats pink at sunset. And for a second, paradise feels alive again. There's something powerful about that. A bird once nearly erased, now reclaiming its place. Louder, prouder, and yes, pinker than ever. So tell me, When you see a flamingo, do you think beauty, resilience, or just attitude with legs? Because this bird doesn't need your approval. It already knows it's the main character. And next, we leave the pink glam behind for something faster, sharper, and about 10 times more terrifying in flight. A tiny hawk with reflexes that would humble a fighter pilot. Ever met someone small, quiet, and polite, until they decide to ruin your entire day? That's the sharp-shinned hawk, the smallest hawk in North America, and easily the most dangerous thing you'll never see coming. While you're admiring parrots and flamingos, this bird is already locked onto its next target. A sparrow, a finch, maybe that cute little songbird you were just photographing. One blur of motion, one whisper of feathers, and poof, instant silence. It's only about the size of a pigeon, but it moves like it's powered by caffeine and bad intentions. Fast, ruthless, and surgical. It hunts by surprise, weaving through trees at high speed, using agility instead of brute strength. If birds had ninjas, this would be the one. It's also one of the few hawks that doesn't soar. It ambushes. Most of its kills happen before the victim even realizes there's danger. Nature's version of blink and you're gone. But here's the part I love. For all its ferocity, the sharp-shinned hawk looks innocent. Round yellow eyes, soft gray feathers, chestnut streaks on the chest. Adorable, really. It's the classic don't judge by appearance lesson wrapped in feathers and murder. And it's got guts. These hawks migrate across entire continents, flying thousands of miles on wings barely a foot long. Some even cross the ocean to reach the Virgin Islands, just to continue terrorizing the locals. That's commitment to the bit. When they're not hunting, they're ghosting through forests, vanishing between branches so fast it's like they were never there. They're the hitmen of the sky, quiet, efficient, and gone before the credits roll. So tell me, genius predator or tiny psychopath with wings, would you still call it beautiful if you saw it take down your favorite songbird? Because out here in paradise, even the smallest hunters have the sharpest instincts. And coming up next, we're staying in the killer zone, but this one hunts with style, color, and confidence. Think of it as the Caribbean's tiny falcon with main character energy. You ever meet someone small, charming, and absolutely fearless? That's the American kestrel, the Virgin Islands' tiniest raptor, and probably the only bird that could steal your heart and your lunch in the same 5 seconds. Don't let the size fool you. This bird is barely bigger than a soda can, but it's all attitude. Bright orange chest, blue-gray wings, black war paint across the eyes. It looks like a toy until it moves. And then you realize you're watching a heat-seeking missile in feathers. Kestrels hover mid-air like they're defying physics. Tail fanned, wings buzzing, eyes locked on prey. They hang there for a heartbeat, then drop like a stone, straight onto some unlucky lizard or grasshopper that never saw it coming. It's quick, brutal, and weirdly satisfying to watch. And here's the twist. This little falcon doesn't just hunt, it poses. After every kill, it stands tall on a branch, feathers perfect, like it's waiting for someone to say, "Nice shot, bro." Confidence level? Unmeasurable. They're also fiercely loyal. Pairs often mate for life, sharing hunting duties and protecting their nests like miniature power couples. Imagine Bonnie and Clyde, but with sharper talons and better hair. What makes the kestrel extra fascinating is how it adapts. Cities, farms, forests, doesn't matter. If there's an open field and something to eat, it's home. It's the ultimate survivor. Small, flashy, and impossible to ignore. And yes, this bird has fans. In the Virgin Islands, people call it the pocket rocket. It's small enough to disappear into the sky, but bold enough to take on prey twice its size. Talk about punching above your weight. So what do you think? Tiny superhero or feathered maniac with a god complex? Because the American kestrel may be small, but in its own mind, it's already the apex predator of paradise. And if you think that confidence is wild, wait till you see the next bird. A black and white sky dancer with a tail so long and elegant, it could steal the spotlight from a jet. You know those people who make everything look effortless? Like they're not even trying, but still better than everyone else? Yeah, that's the swallow-tailed kite. While other birds flap, stumble, and crash through thermals, this one floats, carving through the Virgin Islands sky like it owns the air itself. Long black wings, snow-white body, and that tail, split in 2 perfect blades that steer like a fighter jet. It's part bird, part ballet, and part physics cheat code. The kite doesn't hunt, it performs, it twists, rolls, dives, and slices through the sky, snatching insects mid-air without even slowing down. 1 second it's over your head, the next it's gone. Just a flash of white against blue. It doesn't perch often, doesn't land much, doesn't even bother with the ground. It eats, sleeps, and lives in the sky. Talk about commitment to the aesthetic. And yet, for all its grace, this bird is ruthless when it has to be. It hunts small reptiles and frogs with sniper precision, grabbing them right off treetops. If there's a storm coming, the kite just rides it, gliding effortlessly through chaos like, yeah, turbulence is for mortals. They migrate across oceans, from South America to the Caribbean, barely flapping, just surfing the wind like it's second nature. Imagine doing an intercontinental flight and still looking fabulous when you land. They nest high in the tallest trees, building twig palaces no one else dares approach. And when the chicks fledge, the whole family flies together, a squadron of black and white acrobats training for the sky show. So what do you call that? Grace or arrogance? Because the swallow-tailed kite doesn't compete. It makes every other bird look like it's buffering. And tell me, if you could spend your life doing one thing perfectly, would you stay on the ground or learn how to fly like this? Next, we leave the sky kings behind and meet a bird of elegance and mystery, a royal pigeon that wears a white crown and carries the calm of the islands in every flap of its wings. Ever met someone who acts like royalty, but secretly eats junk food behind the scenes? That's the white-crowned pigeon, the Caribbean's feathery noble, who somehow made soft gray and white look luxurious. From a distance, it looks calm, elegant, untouchable, a quiet symbol of peace gliding over the mangroves. But get closer and you'll notice the royal crown is really just a patch of white feathers and a permanent look of disapproval. It's giving island aristocrat energy. These pigeons love high society, literally. They build nests on top of mangrove trees, far from predators, people, and apparently humility. Every morning they take flight to the mainland forest to gorge on wild fruits and berries, then return home at sunset, full and fabulous. It's a daily commute most city workers would envy. And here's the irony. For a bird that looks so peaceful, it's one of the most important seed spreaders in the Caribbean. It keeps the forests alive, dropping future trees wherever it flies. So yeah, this lazy royal secretly keeps the ecosystem running, but things haven't always been easy for this island noble. Hunting and habitat loss once pushed it toward extinction, especially when people discovered its meat tasted, well, delicious. Now it's protected, and spotting one in the Virgin Islands feels like a glimpse of living history. They're surprisingly shy, which makes sense. Centuries of being shot at can do that to your personality. Still, when one finally lands near you, it stands tall, head high, as if to say, yes, peasant, you may look. So what do you think? Majestic guardian of the mangroves, or just a fancy pigeon with good PR? Either way, the white-crowned pigeon proves one thing. On these islands, class isn't about color or crown, it's about confidence. And speaking of confidence, the next bird might not wear a crown, but its feathers sparkle like polished metal, and its attitude could start a riot in the rainforest. You ever notice how in every paradise, there's that one chill local who's just unfazed by everything? That's the ruddy ground dove, tiny, cinnamon-colored, and living proof that surviving doesn't require showing off. While pelicans dive like stuntmen and hawks scream for attention, this bird just walks. Literally, it strolls across parking lots, dirt paths, even right past your beach chair. Like, yeah, I live here. You're just visiting, no fancy colors, no dramatic feathers, just soft reddish-brown plumage that blends perfectly with sun-baked soil. If the Virgin Islands had a working-class hero, this would be it. Clocking in early, eating whatever it finds, clocking out before sunset. Pairs of ruddy doves often feed together, side by side, heads bobbing in sync like a long-married couple that stopped arguing years ago. It's not glamorous, but it works. They mate for life, raise chicks in low trees or shrubs, and never complain about the heat, the rain, or the rent. Here's the twist. While flashier species are struggling to survive, these little doves are quietly winning. They thrive in cities, farms, even near airports. Give them a patch of grass and a handful of seeds, and they'll build a life there, no drama required. Their call? A soft, rolling coo-coo-coo, like the universe reminding you to relax. You'll hear it at sunrise, echoing through the quiet streets, a sound that says, it's another good day to be alive. They might not be famous, they're not rare, but they're consistent. And maybe that's the kind of beauty we overlook, the steady, ordinary kind that never asks for applause. So what do you think? Background extra in paradise? Or the island's real MVP? Because while everyone else is chasing the spotlight, the ruddy ground dove just minds its business, and somehow always lands on top. And next we trade quiet strength for fragile grace, a snow-white bird fighting to survive on the edge of paradise. Not every hero is loud. Some wear white, whisper softly, and fight battles you'll never notice. That's the snowy plover, a tiny ghost of the beach, surviving on pure instinct and grit. You might think beaches belong to people, the towels, the umbrellas, the selfies. But the snowy plover was here first. It's the original beach resident, and every wave, footprint, and tire track is a potential disaster it has to dodge. Barely 6 inches long, pale as sea foam, it disappears against the sand like nature's camouflage masterpiece. It doesn't just live by the ocean, it becomes part of it. You could walk right by a nest without realizing it's there. Just a shallow scrape in the sand, lined with a few tiny pebbles, home to the next generation. And that's the problem. Tourists step over them. Beach vehicles crush them. Even unleashed dogs chase them off their nests. Every summer becomes a test of endurance, a quiet war between beauty and carelessness. But the plover refuses to give up. Each morning it's out there again, darting at the tide line, picking insects and crustaceans with lightning-fast precision, legs moving so quickly they blur against the surf. It's fragile, yes, but it's also fierce. Conservationists now rope off nesting areas, fighting to give this tiny survivor a safe chance. And sometimes, if you're lucky, you'll see a chick no bigger than a seashell wobbling through the sand, following its parents toward the edge of the water. That's the real paradise. Not the postcard beaches, not the cocktails, just quiet life holding on in the sunlight. So tell me, isn't it wild that the smallest bird on the beach might be the bravest one there? Because the snowy plover doesn't sing or soar. It endures. And somehow that's the most powerful story of all. Next, we leave the fragile white sand behind and head inland, where a yellow-suited boss bird runs the tropical skies like it owns the place. You ever meet someone who just radiates main character energy? The one who shows up late, takes the best seat, and somehow makes it work? That's the tropical kingbird, the yellow-suited CEO of the Caribbean skies. You can spot it from a mile away. Gray head, sunshine yellow chest, and that upright posture that just screams, "Yeah, I'm in charge here." It perches on the highest wire or branch, scanning its territory like it's managing quarterly reports. And when something moves, boom, it's off the perch, snatching an insect midair with ruthless precision. This bird doesn't hunt, it executes. Everything about it says control. The steady gaze, the crisp movements, the efficiency. It doesn't waste time flapping around like amateurs. Every flight is strategic. Every meal is earned with flair. And it's not afraid of confrontation. Hawks, crows, even snakes. If you get too close to its nest, the kingbird turns into a one-bird security system. Dive bombing, screaming, fearless. It's got don't test me energy in every feather. But here's the twist. For all its confidence, the tropical kingbird is a romantic. Pairs form tight bonds, hunting together, calling back and forth with sharp chee-reap notes, like a couple who runs a business and a marriage at the same time. They thrive anywhere. Forests, beaches, city parks, as long as there's a perch and something to boss around. They've even adapted to human spaces, turning telephone wires into executive offices. Power line? No. Power move. So what do you think? Natural-born leader or just another loud tropical overachiever? Because the tropical kingbird doesn't ask for permission, it delegates. And here in the Virgin Islands, the sky is its boardroom. Next up, we meet the cousin who heard all the hype, copied the attitude, and turned it up to 11. Louder, meaner, and twice as dramatic. Meet the loggerhead kingbird. You know that one cousin who shows up at every family party, talks louder than everyone, and somehow ends up in all the photos? Yeah, that's the loggerhead kingbird. The tropical kingbird's pushy, overconfident relative who refuses to play second fiddle. Slightly bigger, darker, and way bossier, the loggerhead struts through the Virgin Islands like it bought the place. Same upright stance, same dramatic tail flick, but the vibe? More bouncer at a nightclub than CEO. It perches high on exposed branches, scanning for insects. Or honestly, for trouble. Anything that flies by, a crow, a hawk, even a passing pelican, gets a warning dive bomb like, "Hey, airspace violation." It's a sky cop with a temper. And unlike its mellow cousin, the loggerhead isn't here to impress. It's here to dominate. You'll hear its sharp "seat, seat, see" ringing through the canopy like an argument nobody asked for. This bird doesn't share, it declares. Fun fact, its Latin name, Tyrannus caudafaciatus, literally means striped-tailed tyrant, which feels accurate. Even the word tyrant feels like an understatement once you've seen one chase off a hawk 5 times its size. But here's the funny part. For all the attitude, the loggerhead is a fantastic parent. It builds strong nests, fiercely defends chicks, and works overtime feeding them insects and fruit. So yeah, it's a tyrant, but a dedicated one. You'll spot them near open fields, mangroves, and even hotel gardens, always perched higher than everyone else because obviously that's where royalty belongs. So which kingbird wins the crown? The polished CEO or the loud cousin with street cred? Drop your vote below because the loggerhead won't take losing quietly. And if you thought this bird was noisy, wait till you meet the next one. A professional mimic who doesn't just talk back, it talks like you. You ever met someone who just has to be the center of attention? And the worst part, they're actually good at it. That's the northern mockingbird, the Caribbean's loudest, smartest, and most unapologetic show-off. Forget singing, this bird samples. It doesn't create new songs, it remixes the entire island. Frogs, car alarms, other birds, your ringtone. If it hears it, it owns it. And unlike most performers, it doesn't wait for an audience. It is the audience. You'll see it perched on a fence, tail twitching, head up, belting out 10 different species in a single minute, like a one-bird mixtape. And if that doesn't get attention, it adds choreography. Spreading its wings wide between notes, like, "Ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome." Scientists say the males sing the most when they're single. Translation? This bird is basically yelling, "Still available," across half the island. Romance, but make it noisy. But it's not just talent, it's strategy. Those songs claim territory, warn rivals, and charm mates. Each call is a flex. Yeah, I can do your voice better than you. It's musical trash talk at its finest. Mockingbirds are also famously fearless. They'll dive at cats, dogs, and sometimes people just for walking too close to their nest. You can't scare them. They'll lecture you instead. Fun fact, mockingbirds can recognize individual humans. So if you annoyed one last week, don't be shocked if it heckles you tomorrow. Long memory, petty energy, total legend. So what do you think? Genius performer or feathered loudmouth with too much confidence? Because here in the Virgin Islands, this bird isn't mimicking the world. It's mocking it and doing it better than anyone else. Next up, we meet the true voice of the Caribbean forest. A small bird with a constant soundtrack, an opinion about everything, and absolutely no idea what quiet means. You know that one neighbor who's always talking, not gossiping, just narrating life out loud? That's the black-whiskered vireo, the bird that turned the Caribbean into its personal radio station. From sunrise to sunset, this little guy has something to say. Every rustle of leaves, every passing cloud, there's a comment for it. You can almost hear it. Nice breeze today. Yep. Bugs look good. Oh, there's you again. It's like a one-bird podcast with zero editing. The look fits the attitude. Olive green back, pale belly, and that signature dark line under the cheek, like a tiny beard that says, "Yeah, I've got opinions." And boy, does it use them. You'll find these birds in the mangroves and coastal woodlands, flitting from branch to branch, calling nonstop. It's not exactly singing, more like ongoing commentary with rhythm. Each note sounds like punctuation. Chip, chat, chirp, pause, repeat. What's wild is that they don't stop, even when it's hot, raining, or crowded. They just adjust the tempo. A slow jam for shade, a rapid-fire freestyle when the sun's up. If the Virgin Islands had a soundtrack, this bird wrote it, by accident. Fun fact, the black-whiskered vireo migrates thousands of miles between the Caribbean and South America. And yes, it sings the whole way. Imagine being stuck next to that on a long flight. Charming for the first hour. After that, you start questioning your life choices. But here's the thing. That endless chatter helps them find mates and defend territory. They're not just noisy, they're networking. Every call is a status update. I'm here, I'm alive, and I sound great. So what do you think? Caribbean icon or just the loud neighbor nobody can mute? Because like it or not, the black-whiskered vireo doesn't just live in paradise, it voices it. And next up, we meet its restless cousin, a world traveler with red eyes, wanderlust, and zero chill. You ever been stuck on a road trip with someone who won't stop talking? They narrate every tree, every turn, every thought. That's the red-eyed vireo, the eternal traveler who sings through every mile like the journey itself owes it applause. This little bird migrates thousands of miles every year, from South America all the way to North America, and then back again, across oceans, storms, and entire continents, and it still finds time to talk about it. It's about 6 inches long, olive green back, pale belly, and of course, those striking red eyes that look like it hasn't slept since migration started. It's got the voice of a narrator and the energy of a caffeinated tour guide. While most birds rest during the heat of the day, the red-eyed vireo keeps singing. Hundreds, sometimes thousands of tiny phrases. It's like it's live tweeting the forest. New branch. Great bug. Wind's nice today. Still flying, the world's most enthusiastic oversharer. But don't be fooled by the chatter. This bird's a machine. It forages nonstop, hopping methodically through branches, snatching caterpillars and insects with sniper precision. And that voice? It's not just noise. It's a territorial anthem, a way to tell everyone else, yeah, I made it. Again, fun fact. Scientists estimate the red-eyed vireo sings over 20,000 songs a day during breeding season. That's right, 20,000. By the time you finish breakfast, it's already on track 300. Dedication or madness? You decide. They're also one of the last birds to stop singing at dusk. The forest dims, everything quiets down, and somewhere up high, this little traveler is still going. Almost done. One more verse. So tell me, would you call that passion or pure noise addiction? Because in a world full of silent survivors, the red-eyed vireo refuses to shut up, and somehow we love it for that. Next, we meet its nosy cousin, smaller, sharper, and way too curious for its own good. A bird with a white stare and an attitude that says, "I'm watching you." You ever get that feeling you're being watched? Not by people, by something smaller, sneakier, and way more judgmental? That's the white-eyed vireo, the Caribbean's nosiest little spy with feathers. It's a small, olive-green bird with yellow streaks and that piercing white iris that gives it a permanent, "I've seen things" look. Even when it's just chilling in a bush, it looks like it's gathering intel on your life choices. One glance from those pale eyes and you feel like you owe it an explanation. You'll find it deep in shrubs, mangroves, and tangled branches. Never out in the open, always lurking just out of view. It moves quick, talks faster. It's call, sharp, snappy, and sassy, like a tropical detective narrating its own case. Bug spotted, target locked, snack secured. It doesn't just live in the forest, it monitors it. Every leaf, every lizard, every wandering tourist. The vireo's got tabs on it all. And if something disturbs its territory, good luck. This tiny bird turns into a full-blown alarm system, chirping, scolding, and making sure the entire neighborhood knows who messed up. But here's the twist. For all that spy energy, it's also a perfectionist builder. The white-eyed vireo weaves hanging nests from plant fibers, grass, and spider webs. Delicate masterpieces hidden inside thickets, so well camouflaged you could stare straight at one and never see it. Espionage meets interior design, and when it sings, it's complicated. Not melodic, not chaotic, just confident. Each phrase sounds like a coded message. If James Bond were a bird, he'd probably sound like this. So tell me, adorably curious or mildly terrifying? Because the white-eyed vireo isn't out to impress you. It's just here to remind you that in paradise, someone's always watching. Next up, we swap spies for drama queens. Tiny, hyper, and loud enough to make your morning coffee nervous. Meet the island's most caffeinated troublemaker. You ever meet someone who's 5 feet of energy and a 1-foot body? That's the blue-gray gnatcatcher. A bird so small it could sit on your thumb and still find a way to boss you around. Barely 5 inches long, light as a handful of feathers, and yet somehow always in motion. It zips from branch to branch, tail twitching, wings flicking, like it's running late to an argument, and it talks the whole time. A string of buzzy squeaks that sound like it's complaining about the weather, the bugs, and you. Its colors are subtle, pale blue-gray above, white below, but don't let that fool you. This bird has attitude. It moves like it just had 3 espressos and one too many opinions. They hunt tiny insects midair, snapping them up with ridiculous precision for something this small. And they never stop. It's eat, chatter, scold, repeat. If anxiety had wings, it'd look like this. Fun fact, blue-gray gnatcatchers build one of the most beautiful nests in the bird world. They use spider silk to weave a stretchy cup that expands as the chicks grow. Basically the bird version of smart furniture. Then they camouflage it with bits of lichen so it blends perfectly with the branch. Functional and fabulous. They live in pairs and are almost inseparable. Always talking, always moving, always correcting each other mid-flight. It's chaos, but wholesome chaos. And here's the irony. For all the energy, they're surprisingly shy. One wrong move and poof, they vanish into the leaves, leaving you wondering if you just hallucinated a flying caffeine shot. So tell me, cute or exhausting? Because the blue-gray gnatcatcher may be tiny, but it's proof that personality doesn't need size. Just attitude and way too much energy. Next, we calm things down. A chill little seed eater in a black mask, bringing back the Caribbean cool right when you need it most. Every island has that one local who never seems stressed. Sun's blazing, waves are loud, everyone's rushing, and he's just there, chill, unbothered, sipping life one seed at a time. That's the black-faced grassquit, the Caribbean's low-key king of calm. Tiny, round, and dressed in dark olive with a jet black face, this little bird looks like it's wearing sunglasses it doesn't need. It hops around open fields and roadsides, pecking seeds with the kind of focus only found in creatures who have truly mastered island time. While other birds are busy fighting, singing, or performing aerial stunts, the grassquit's entire vibe is, relax. The world's not ending. I've got breakfast, no drama, no noise, just seed to mouth efficiency. And yet, despite its small size, it's everywhere. From grassy hills to scrubby coastal plains, always blending in, never begging for attention. It's the bird equivalent of that friend who never posts on social media, but somehow everyone likes anyway. Fun fact, males perform a subtle courtship display. They puff up their black chests, flutter upward a few feet, and drop back down while singing a soft shh. It's low effort, low altitude, but oddly charming, like a mini romantic gesture that says, hey, I tried, and that's enough. And you know what? It works. Because while flashier birds are busy burning calories showing off, the grass quit quietly gets the job done. Nest built, mate secured, breakfast handled. They thrive in simplicity, a reminder that survival doesn't always need to be spectacular. Sometimes it's about staying grounded, eating well, and enjoying the breeze. So what do you think? Boring or brilliantly balanced? Because in a world full of noisy show-offs, the black-faced grass quit proves that cool isn't about volume. Next, we wrap it all up. The grand finale, a bird with brains, brawn, and bad attitude. The island's undisputed ruler, and the last one you'd ever want to mess with. Every paradise needs a villain, not the cartoon kind, the one who's smart, territorial, and way too good at winning. Meet the Pearly-eyed Thrasher, the bird that runs the Virgin Islands, like it owns a gang, a map, and a mortgage. At first glance, it looks harmless. Brown plumage, long tail, and those pale, pearl-white eyes that almost glow in the sun. But don't let that calm stare fool you. That's not peace. That's calculation. The Pearly-eyed Thrasher isn't here to share the island. It's here to run it. You'll find it raiding nests, stealing food, even evicting smaller birds from their homes, then moving right in like it signed the lease. It's bold, aggressive, and unapologetically successful. Locals call it clever. Birdwatchers call it chaos. Either way, it's earned its reputation. This bird is basically the pirate king of the canopy. Strategic, loud, and willing to pick a fight with anything that breathes. It mimics other bird calls, sneaks into nests, and sometimes just wrecks stuff for fun. You know, to remind everyone who's boss. But here's the twist. For all its villain vibes, the Pearly-eyed Thrasher is brilliant. It's one of the most adaptable species in the Caribbean, thriving in forests, towns, cliffs, even hotel gardens. Storm hits? It's fine. Drought comes? Still fine. You could probably build a mall here, and this bird would open a store inside it. Fun fact, it's been caught stealing shiny objects. Coins, bits of foil, bottle caps, maybe trophies, maybe decor, maybe just to prove a point. So tell me, is it a bully or just the ultimate survivor? Because every island paradise has a rebel heart, and in the Virgin Islands, it beats behind a pair of pale, watchful eyes. And that's how the story ends. Not with a gentle songbird, but with a clever, ruthless island local who refuses to give up the crown. So, still think the Virgin Islands are just about beaches and cocktails? Because after 20 birds, I'm betting you'll never look at tropical paradise the same way again. We met the laughers, the pirates, the spies, the drama queens, and one very smug island boss with pearl eyes and zero chill. Turns out paradise has a personality disorder, and it's magnificent. These birds aren't just background noise for your vacation photos. They're survivors, fighters, stand-up comedians with feathers. Each one battling storms, tourists, and time, just to keep the island wild a little longer. And here's where you come in. Which one stole the show for you? The chill grass quit? The drama-loving gnatcatcher? Or that thrasher who'd probably steal your sandwich and your car keys? Tell me in the comments, because honestly, I'm taking bets. If you thought you knew the Virgin Islands, you've only seen the postcards. The real story lives in the wings, in the noise, in the chaos. And next time, we're flying east to an island where the birds don't just sing, they perform ancient dances older than the temples themselves. Until then, keep your eyes up and maybe your snacks closed, because out here, even the birds play dirty.